What's up, everyone? Mark Price here at devslopes.com. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing a hoodie, it's because it's a proven fact that if you wear a hoodie, you can actually hack better and code better. At least that's what the movies say. Anyway, we're going to do some setup today for React. We're going to talk about the NPM packages we're going to need to use. So I'm going to pull open my browser here. I've got these open already for our viewing pleasure. And let's talk about the important packages and how they work. If you already are an expert at NPM and the packages, then you don't have to listen to this video. You can just know in the subsequent videos that we're going to do which ones you need to install. But I found that this was very confusing to know what all these tools are and what they do. And a lot of videos and instructors just quickly gloss over them and say, use this, use this, use this, and you don't really know why. So let's talk about it. So as you've already experimented, you know that we can use NPM to install packages for our applications, okay? However, that's mostly for the server or for your Mac. It doesn't work on the browser, right? So for instance, meaning if I included a JavaScript file in my browser code, in my index.html, and that JavaScript file said require and pulled up on some other file, it wouldn't know what to do with it. It wouldn't know how to pull that file in. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't work. So what we need to do is use Browserify. And Browserify, or Browserify, however you want to call it, what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to write your code with NPM and install those packages and require and all those cool things that we've been doing and I showed you. It's going to allow us to use that on the browser. So how it works is you're going to write all your script files. In our case, we'll be using .jsx files, and then what we'll be doing is doing require, and we'll require our other script files just like we did before. And what it will do is it will take all these script files, okay? And then it's going to take them and transpose them into a single JavaScript file that we can use on the browser. It'll just magically pull all that stuff over for us. So the actual code that's running is not those script files that you've created and coded. It takes all that and puts it into a single script file so it's usable in the browser. So it'll all work the same. It just makes it all work. So that's really cool. So that's how we can use NPM and all the cool packages that are out there for our browser, which is very powerful. Okay, so next on the list is Babel or Babel. I'm not sure how it's pronounced really, but basically, for some history, JavaScript historically has kind of sucked. I mean, compared to other programming languages, it's pretty terrible. Like I program in many different languages, and it's rough. There's lots of problems, and you got to write more code to have safer code. So anyway, here comes ES 2015 or JavaScript ES6, whatever you want to call it. They renamed it. Anyway, very powerful stuff. You can write classes, very, very safe language, if you want to call it a language. However, browsers don't necessarily support this new syntax. And so what happens is we use Babel to take this cool new JavaScript code, this ES 2015, and what it will do it will compile it over into the old JavaScript. So you write all this cool new code and you're like, oh, this is awesome. I'm writing some good stuff. And then it takes that and then it converts it all into the nasty JavaScript code. And then that's what your browser uses. So Babel is a compiler that compiles new JavaScript and makes it into the old JavaScript. I'm kind of dumbing it down. Don't yell at me if I'm not using the proper technical terms here, but that's what it does. And so the cool thing is, maybe you're thinking, we're not using ES 2015 in this class. Why would we do that? Well, Babel can do more than just ES 2015. What it's going to do for us is it's going to take our .jsx code, this React code format, this XML-like format that we're going to be using in this course and that React uses. It's going to take that and compile that into readable JavaScript for us. So we need to use Babel so it can take our React code, our .jsx, and it can compile it into something that's readable, into regular JavaScript. So that's what we'll be using Babel for. Okay. And then we have something called Babel/Babelify or Babelify, however you want to pronounce it. And what that's going to do is it's going to take our JavaScript or our JSX code, it's going to take our JSX code and it's going to make it work or compile it for our Browserify. So meaning it will take it so we can actually use that in the browser. So we have to have this in there. It's an extra step, but it allows us to use that compiled code that Babel is going to provide us for JSX, and it's going to make it work for Browserify so we can actually use it in the browser. And the next one we're going to use is Babel Preset React. Now this is a preset built by React for Babelify and Babel, basically so it can properly compile your code into JavaScript, so it can know how to do that. So you have to have that. It's specific to React. So this preset is what Babel is going to use to determine how it's going to compile the JSX code into readable JavaScript. Okay, so that's another tool that we're going to need in order for this to work. Okay, lastly, as far as tools go here, we're going to use Watchify. And Watchify is for Browserify, and this is optional, but we're going to be using it. And what it does is it instantly compiles our code every single time we make a change. So for instance, let's say I wrote all these script files, and they're all JSX, and now rather than manually going into your terminal and writing some command to export everything into JavaScript and then reloading the page, which can take a couple minutes, this is going to do it instantly. So every time you make a code change on your script files, it's instantly going to compile them so you can reload your browser and they're all ready to go. Okay, very cool stuff. So these are the external tools that we need in order to really work with React really well. And this is the Facebook way. This is the way that they recommend. There are a couple of options. You don't have to use Browserify. There's another option you can use, but that's what we're using. And lastly, I'm not going to pull these up, but just know that the NPM packages we're going to use for React are React and React-DOM, okay? And those are the official Facebook packages for Node for working with React, and they've split it up into two packages. You don't have to understand what's going behind the scenes in these two separate packages. You just have to know which ones to use and when to use them. They've just logically separated that up into two pieces, but you can't really use one without the other. So those are the tools we're going to be using. So remember, Browserify allows us to have NPM modules. It's going to take all those NPM modules, put them in a single script file so we can use them on the front end. Babel is the tool that compiles code from one type of language or syntax into readable JavaScript. So that's the engine underneath, which is going to do that compiling for us. The Babel React preset is what's going to say, hey, let's use Babel and interpret JSX code, and this is what it means. And then it's going to turn it into readable JavaScript. And then Babelify allows us to take that Babel compiled code and put it into readable modules for Browserify. And then Watchify is what takes the code changes that we make and reads and listens for those changes and instantly compiles, so we don't have to manually go through the process. And then, of course, React and React-DOM are the React packages we're going to be using. So I know it's a lot. You'll start getting more familiar with these as we go along, but let's go ahead and move forward and get started. And remember, to get your free live help, go to devslopes.com and click on chat room. I'm there all the time, as well as a huge community of other students.